You don't know the things I do to make you feel right, make you feel alright. And everything you wanna know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Spreading for so long, spreading for so long. Do you feel right? Do you feel right? This is all I wanna know. Are you telling me that you'll be by my side when I wake up at night? Oh, and everything you wanna know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. I love the city lights when you never look so bright. Oh, this is all I wanna know. Tell me you feel alright. Tell me you feel alright. Show me your face, don't push me away. You wanna feel right, you wanna feel right. Show me your face, don't push me away. You wanna feel right. Are you telling me that you'll be by my side when I wake up at night? Oh, and everything you wanna know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. I love the city lights when you never look so bright. Oh, this is all I wanna know. Tell me you feel alright. Tell me you feel alright.
This thing on.
You know you're so bright.
Jacob, can you hear me? Okay, good.
You're the source of love for me. So
Jacob, how can you hear me?
you'll be by my side when I wake up at
Am I coming
night.
through clear?
Oh, and everything you wanna know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. I love the city lights when you never look so bright.
Sorry, I don't have
And this is all I wanna know.
and my beach chair.
Tell me you feel alright. Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa, and accompanying today, we got two out of the three other members of Down in the Valley. The one you see right here, right now, is our photographer, and who we're glad for him to be back with us talking about soccer. Cesar Cortez. Cesar, how you doing, man?
Doing fine, Edson. It's good to be back, actually. Feels really good to be back.
I know, man, but adulting called, and there's priorities. It's like they say.
Yeah.
It's like they say.
Yeah,
Soccer is the most important thing of the least important things.
Oh yeah. And I got to experience that firsthand.
And that's pretty good. And also with us we have Jacob Young, who's with us week after week, and he's joining us today once again. Jacob, how are you doing?
Doing well. Looking forward to talking about Toros soccer. At least we've got something good to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Something good, something not so great, and of course we have a topic that we will be bringing up later on. I don't know if you guys read the article from The Athletic, but it does have to do with RGVFC for a bit, mostly about MLS2 clubs, but there's a possibility that this might affect the Toros come next year, or at least in the future. I want to take the time, first of all, to thank our sponsors, Roughneck Scarves and Golden Goal Press, for supporting the Beautiful Game Network. Roughneck Scarves, they are the official scarf supplier of USL, MLS, and NCAA, as well as Golden Goal Press. If you guys would like any buttons, any cups, any stickers, you name it, shirts, give them a call. Check out their website, goldengoalpress.com, and check out all what they have to offer at really, really good prices. I want to take my time right now also to say hello to everybody that's in the chat right now. We have Alex Centeno, we have Harry, we have Cisco joining us as well. So hello to all of you three, and to all of those who are there in the background lurking. A big shout out to you all, and thank you for tuning in to the show, and hope you guys enjoyed our talk about the Toros. And I can already assure you that we're going to be talking Dynamo as well, because it's just so many different things that have been going on that I think it's important for us with the RGV perspective to talk about them as well. So first of all, I don't know if you guys heard, but the Beard is now a minority owner of the Houston Dynamo. What are your thoughts on that? 5% minority stake.
To me, this means something and nothing at the same time.
Ooh.
Why am I saying it like this? Well, because great, we've got a superstar in here, but we had another superstar that didn't care about this club at all. Yeah, I'm talking about that boxer that I can never remember the name of.
Oscar de la Hoya.
There you go.
Exactly. He's pointless to me. Why? Do you see anything on any of his social medias about Houston Dynamo? No, he doesn't care. Again, the other two, nowhere to be seen once again, doesn't care. But seems like Harden cares a bit more than them. Great start. The other three need to get their butts out of the shareholders. Get ourselves, I don't know, Brian Ching needs to fully invest. I understand he's got that restaurant and all of that, or that bar, however you want to call it. Cool. The others need to get their butts in with the minority, because yeah, it could be cool, but once again, James Harden's not he's gonna have to convince these three other guys that are cheapskates to pay to at least give some more money into this club. That's probably not gonna happen, but it's a great start. I really hope that it's an improvement.
You know what's different, before I go with you, Cesar, but you know what's different, I believe, from James Harden, from Oscar de la Hoya and the other two minority owners? He at least has some ties with Houston. He feels identified with Houston, unlike Oscar de la Hoya, who obviously feels a lot more identified with LA. And then you got one of the minority owners from Portland, and I don't know where the other minority owner is from. But that's what I feel. I think not only him being involved in sports, him being a figurehead right now in modern basketball, and he's in his prime, then yes, I feel like I was gonna say signing, but this announcement of him being a minority owner, I think he's going to take matters into his own hands and do his part to promote the Dynamo within basketball fans and others. Now, obviously, I wish that other Houston sports people like maybe JJ Watt or Altuve would join in, but that's just wishful thinking. But for right now, we have James Harden, and I think he might not make as big of an influence money wise as far as like getting more signings, but I think his PR influence might benefit the Dynamo, and I think that is somewhat of a positive. Cesar?
Yeah, like Jacob had said, with him being affiliated with Houston, funny enough, he plays with the pro team that represents the G League, which happens to be the RGV Vipers. And the fact that they have those kind of ties, RGV Houston, I shouldn't see it as not really a coincidence. I don't want to say it's irony, but it does feel like this was bound to happen. Sure, some of the shareholders who have been with the Houston Dynamo for quite a while haven't really, I don't want to say stepped up their game, because I'm pretty sure they're doing what they can do. But seeing as James Harden has ties to Houston, like Jacob said, hopefully it should be able to, I don't want to say publicity, but hopefully boost Houston's morale, because, and where was I going? Oh, yeah. Because, like he said, and I keep repeating myself, sorry, but he does identify with Houston, anything that has to do with it. And that, in turn, should generate some morality for the Houston Dynamo, as well as inspire some of the shareholders to be able to do their part in, getting the Dynamo to where they need to be. And who knows, it might tie into getting some good results for RGVFC too.
And you know what? Also, we have to remember that James Harden is a global icon. Like Cisco says, he says he has a huge shoe deal with Adidas. He was just in China and Paris and England. He's a global icon, and he's friends with a lot of soccer players in Europe, top soccer players. Obviously, they're not going to be coming here because you know how we spend. But at least I think that kind of influence can kind of navigate and also help out MLS. And and who knows? Maybe in the future things might change. The owners might think about spending a little more. Maybe, I'm not telling you bring in a Antoine Griezmann, past his prime, when he's about to retire, but maybe some other cheaper European players, or at least players that play in Europe, that can make a difference and are going to not pretty much await his paycheck in MLS. Like a Wayne Rooney kind of thing, that he's going to work his behind off here in the United States in MLS, and it's going to make a difference with his team, in this case DC United, with him. Yeah, go ahead.
To be fair, I think Houston kind of had that player before he spent a bit too long down in the valley. Yeah, I'm talking about Charlie Ward, because he was a great signing for the rookie camp or whatever, but then just spent a bit too much time, and Houston said, now we don't necessarily want him. Yes, I understand he's doing great in the USL, and of course that could be pushed aside to the BGN written right there to Carson's little love for him, which that's fine. But yes, to be fair, they did have one that was almost a success. And then, of course, it's weird because a lot of those players as well from the golden era of Houston Dynamo is what you can call it. Most of them did play in Europe, if I'm not mistaken, or at least what's his face? Wow, Number 20, Jeff Cameron played in Europe. So you've got at least that guy from the golden era. My point being, yeah, we did technically have someone like that was pretty cheap and was going to be a success before. I don't know. He just took too long to really get back up on his prime, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So back in the chat, Alex says there were a lot of people on social media saying they want to come to a game. See, right off the bat, we're starting to see an influence of what James Harden has on his influence over his followers. It's just, and we go back to saying what we've said a lot in Gen Orange, and you've said it yourself. There's the exposure this team has was very minimum. There were so many people that had no idea that the Dynamo even exists, or knew it exists, or even care. Pardon the redundancy, but it just seems like that. And with James Harden making this announcement, now being a part of the Dynamo, it's like, they want to support James Harden, so okay, we'll support. We'll go and watch a game. We'll see how it is. And because of that, and because his reputation, you could say, is kind of on the line with that, James Harden is going to want to do whatever it takes to make sure that this organization is successful on and off the field. And then Harry says, so I guess they're going all in on Toronto since the Dynamo did not get off the bus in Atlanta. They can't go all in without Elise. Think of the impact Drake has on Toronto sports. And then he says, and if I'm not mistaken, Cisco says, he had a hand on some TFC signings.
It's very interesting. But, yeah, I mean, one quick thing to say about, I guess, the Toronto game. You did see the lineup, how it was from versus Atlanta to what they are probably going to bring out in Toronto. And I could easily tell from looking at the bench that, yeah, they were trying for Saturday's game, or of course they're trying for Tuesday, which would be very weird, but it would be interesting nonetheless to see that RGVFC players don't get called up for Tuesday and they bring out AJ De La Garza and all those other players for Tuesday. No, but most likely realizing that there's a game on Saturday, that bench you will most likely see in the starting 11, including Joe Willis, which, by the way, congratulations to Tyler Derrick finally getting a start. It's been a long while since he really had gotten a start in the MLS, so congrats to him. Wish him the best of luck once again. But right now, Joe Willis is still a bit better than Tyler Derrick.
Oh, definitely. I can definitely agree with that. I mean, it's just, although I do feel like his defense left him out to dry against Atlanta. I mean, if you see all of the space that they left alone with Joseph Martinez could have easily gotten 2 more goals if he wanted to. Well, not if he wanted to, but if he had a better touch with his shots, they would have gone in. There were a couple of times where he jumped to hit the ball in between 2 defenders, whether it was Struna and Kevin Garcia, and the ball went really, really, really close. And there were so many opportunities as well that the Dynamo defense pretty much gifted them. And you see this, and my personal feeling is, well, number one, Elise needs to get his head out of his butt.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Coming in to this match who the referee is going to be. You know that he has a history of giving out red cards like if it was candy in Halloween. And yet you still decide to get on the ref's face after him giving you a yellow for the foul or for kicking the ball. You still decide to get on his face and actually touch the ref. Then yes, you deserve the red. And if I was a coach, I'm sorry, but I'd bench him his suspension plus 1 more game.
Yep.
I don't care. To me, I understand that Coach Cabrera is in the hot seat right now. Well deserved, but that's a different story. But I'm not going to let my players be what's the word I'm looking for? Unpunished. We can't let this childish acts go unpunished. And if it takes him being benched one more game after the suspension for him to catch on that his actions are going to have consequences, then yes, I do it. Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, that was in like the first 5 minutes of kickoff,
6,
right?
yes.
6 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Now, the Cabrera hot seat, that's a different story just due to the fact that, well, this game, not on coach, I believe. 100% not on coach. He switches the line up as fast as possible once Elise gets sent off because of his moronic move, first off. He just lost his mind. He could be in the loony bin for the whole night. That's just the way that he acted, in my opinion. And then, of course, Cabrera switches up the lineup, and then no one decides to help Tyler Derrick out during the game, which is really frustrating. Well, was frustrating to watch in general because, I mean, you're just going to give Atlanta United, a team that can actually first touch, a chance to first touch and put a ball in the back of the net. Yeah, and it's funny talking to Ray Saturday, just, off record and whatever, just talking about this Atlanta game. He was saying Atlanta United's a pretty weak team. Well, I hope that proved him wrong really well because I knew that they weren't a weak team. I knew that getting any sort of result was going to be unreal. This game, yes, was always going to be a drop, but not by 5 goals. Toronto, I think we could play much better against Toronto just due to the fact we've always done decently there. We've given up goals, yes, but in the long run, we can actually show up in Toronto, which is pretty weird, but it's also the truth just due to the fact, well, look at Toronto's lineup. You've got Josie Altidore, you've got, of course, old man Michael Bradley in the middle who can't still do anything, and not even with his club. I don't believe they still have the man who can score a free kick from any place. If they do, well, great. We can just stop him pretty easily. I think this team is more than capable of getting a result. Now, getting a result at Toronto, like I said, that's a must. And if we don't, yes, you will see my opinion 100% change to Cabrera out now. But for now, yeah, Cabrera's on the hot seat a bit, but not because of Atlanta. His comments after really are making me doubt his ability to coach.
Gonna take a light little break from this. Guys, check out the roster website of the Houston Dynamo. Take a break right now from all the negativity. Go to the HoustonDynamo.com/players. Check out what they did there. So, Cesar, Cesar, your thoughts while we do this?
On Saturday, on yesterday's game?
Yes.
Looking back at it, I actually wasn't able to catch the game. I actually caught the highlights, and I did not see one chance for Houston Dynamo whatsoever.
It was the only one. The only one that happened was the one that Marlon Hairston howled right in front of goal, and then there was another one that was going to be an own goal that hit off Marlon Hairston, hit Julian Gressel. I don't remember who it was, but it hit an Atlanta United defender, and Marlon Hairston himself blocked the potential own goal. So those were just, and everything else, it was just all Atlanta. But going back to your comment, Jacob, about it not being coach's fault, you look at this and then you see that Coach Cabrera did not sub in Morrow, did not sub in Romel Kyoto, somebody who could have at least helped out this team in this dire circumstance. Forget the next Saturday's game. You've got to get a result here, at least so that way you can. What's the word I'm looking for? if you bring in Kyoto and you bring in Morrow, it gives you a higher opportunity to at least not allow Atlanta to come up to you more freely, right? Because you have that you have Morrow and Rommel, and Morrow wasn't subbed in until the 70th minute, and as well as Rommel Kyoto was subbed in until the 62nd minute. I'm sorry, for Morrow, and you bring in Rommel Kyoto in the second half, as well as Juan David Cabezas for Tomas Martinez. It's like, I think Marlon Hairston was left in too long. That was my biggest gripe.
Yeah, but you understand why, though.
I understand why, but it comes to a point where you're like, well, right now, like, we can't let Atlanta United humiliate us, and then they ended up doing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's payback for what we did to them last year. But that's besides the point here. What I saw from that, why he did not sub anyone in. First off, you've got a big gaping hole, correct? Yeah, because you're down you're down to 10 men, technically 9 on the defensive/offensive side. Well, what you do there is you put another defender, just to cover up that hole. You don't try to put in an attacker. If you try to put in an attacker, you're just going to go up more forward, and actually Atlanta United's going to push more and probably score even more goals due to the fact that you are creating even more holes than you would have if you just stayed back and tried to defend. Now,
that's what Cabezas was.
Once again, there's no players that could defend that night because they were just a bunch of babies on the field. They did not know how to play soccer, apparently. It seemed like all of them deserved to be down playing for RGV. That's how bad that team seemed that night. I mean, giving up 5 goals, for crying out loud, I turned it off after 3. And they still gave up 2 more goals and couldn't even score 1. So, that defense was nowhere to be seen. But if you put another offensive player, you're probably going to end up getting scored on 10 times instead of 5.
And one of my biggest disappointments, it shouldn't be a disappointment, but it was a disappointment to me because I've come to the realization that Kevin Garcia is too bad to be able to at least defend him now. And that was that. Like, I was like, that's what hurt. That was what hurt me the most because I've always been like a defender of Kevin Garcia. Yes, he was at a right back position. Once again, we've always said Kevin Garcia is not a right back. But the point is, there are some defensive things that are the same whether you're a right back or a center back, and the fact that his awareness was so bad that he tripped over Tyler Derrick and caused him to get out of that play for that. What was it, the 3rd or the 4th goal? I don't remember. I mean, that's just bad. Like, not even USL players do that. Yeah. With all due respect for Connor Donovan and Kyle Adams, to me it just seems that right now the RGV defense holding the level of play between the two leagues, in your thoughts. To me, it seems like our defenders at RGV are at a better place than our defenders in the Houston Dynamo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad asks and says that I'm sure since this is kind of Liga MX related, so you'll probably have some thoughts on this. But my dad asked, do we need a Tuca Ferretti kind of coach on the bench for the Dynamo? Do we need a coach that his priority is discipline and organization?
At this point, I really don't know whether to say yes or no, because, I mean, this isn't Houston's first big loss this season, is it?
No.
Right now, I'm leaning more towards the yes side, only because, like Jacob said, the way that the defenders had shown their game on the field, it seemed like they didn't even want to play after the first 2 goals had been given up, according to the replays of what I saw. And then with leaving, leaving the back four open, just constantly pushing and pushing and pushing, leaving Tyler Derrick practically without any defense at all. Something's got to give when it comes to the coaching. I don't want to throw Wilmer Cabrera under the bus or anything like that. But at this point, I'd have to say more towards the Tuca Ferretti side of coaching.
Jacob?
No. And why? Just because you don't need a nut job on the sidelines. You don't need a man jumping up and down constantly or getting after the refs on the sidelines. No. Yes, you need someone that's pretty strict, but at the same time, not nuts. Basically, an upgraded version of Jerson, I think, would be a perfect coach because he will tell it like it is. And I think that's a coach that can be really good, really talented in general. Just that style of how Jerson is, able to coach. I've been around the man for now about almost one full season because, of course, I got into the media about halfway through last season or just about. So, point being, I think you have a coach that's with that sort of discipline that, yes, will be yelling at the players from the sidelines because you don't necessarily see Wilmer Cabrera yelling from the sidelines. You might see him trying to, but at the same time, it's not going to work. But you can hear it from RGVFC, the way that Cabrera, or not Cabrera, but the way that Echeverri coaches. And so I think that's a style of coach that you would need. Yeah, another one would probably be a Tata Martino type. Of course, you're not going to find a Tata Martino just laying around doing nothing because, of course, they're out there coaching and being successful. So, yeah, that's another type, but just not one that was like Mexico's and Club America's coach for a while. Not one like that. Just one that's a bit
Miguel
clever,
Herrera.
but at the same time is able to discipline.
Now, hold on. Okay. All right. So here's another thing that makes me think. I was talking to my dad on the phone as I was heading over here to my apartment, kind of going over that. And to me, it seems like, I don't know what y'all think about this. And this is this and the quotes that he said after yesterday's match. The last thing we're going to talk about the Dynamo as far as the game yesterday today. But one of the things that I told my dad is it seems like the players in the locker room have lost faith in Cabrera's direction, in Cabrera's tactics. What are your thoughts on that? To me, that's what I feel. I don't feel like it's not to the point where they're sabotaging the Dynamo on purpose just to want to get him out, like we see it so often in Liga MX. But it seems to me like they lost their confidence in Coach Cabrera.
This is his third season with the team?
Yes.
Not sabotage, but going back to Saturday's game, and I keep going back to it because it does bring up a fair point. Based off of the highlights, there was no organization whatsoever from what I saw.
Jacob?
And that was just off of replays.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, they're not necessarily. Yeah, they probably lost faith, but are they going to try to get him fired on purpose? No, because, that's just not how this team has been. I don't think they think he's as crazy as Owen Coyle or someone like that. Ooh, shots fired.
Mm-hmm.
But in all seriousness, yeah, I don't think that they're going to try to sabotage the rest of the season because guess what? You're playing in front of fans. The fans, guess what? They're not only going to hate the coach, but they're going to hate the players now if the players start to sabotage. Yeah, in America, we can make our voices heard pretty freaking easily on Twitter. So, yeah, in my eyes, in my opinion, they're not going to try to sabotage the rest of the season. They're going to try. But it at the same time, and I think Sean has also said this before, it comes down to the player. Can they see what the heck is wrong or can they not? especially during a game. If you see this ain't working, maybe we should try this out. Maybe a leader should come on like DeMarcus Beasley or someone that's actually on the pitch at that time and say, oh, crap, this ain't working. So let me tell this guy, let's try this formation up right now, because, of course, we all know playing in Houston, you're going to get at least one water break throughout 2 halves. So, yeah, let's figure this out. It doesn't always come down to, at the same time, the coach. The player has to know this isn't working, so let's change this up, because once again, there's a reason why there's a thing called teamwork.
It seems to me like we don't have like vocal leaders, and Sean was saying it yesterday. We have leaders in the sense of they're players that kind of like they perform, or they prefer to take action rather than be vocal about it. They do the work and that's it. The Marcus Beasley, AJD, Kiki Struna, but nobody, since we lost Vicente Sanchez, since we lost Swiss Papa, Felipe Senderos, who was a vocal leader, this team like lost its ability to function correctly, and somebody to take the reins and control everybody else's anger, everybody else's motivation. Like, we don't have anybody on the pitch that motivates the rest of the players when they're down, and it's sad. I mean, I love DeMarcus Beasley, I love Kiki Struna, and I really love AJD, but we need a vocal leader in this team again. So yesterday, Coach Cabrera said, it's my responsibility, but I want them to forget this. This is on us, the players, the coaching staff, to make sure that we change this. And then it was a childish mistake from Albert Elise. He can't do that. He showed a lack of maturity. He has to be accountable for his actions. We talked about this. We can't allow it, especially considering the history that we have with this referee. The last game of ours that Penso refereed, he sent off 3 of our players and then sent me off in the tunnel after the game. I told the players, we cannot get into it with this referee. We have to be careful with this referee. He's a referee that likes to give out red cards, and if you make a mistake like that in the 5th minute, it was a lack of discipline and a lack of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first part of this, of what he said, was not necessarily amazing. I didn't like the first part of that quote. It's on you for sure. And then he said, it's my responsibility, but I want the players to forget this. No, don't make the players forget this.
Exactly.
You know how this crap feels? It's also your responsibility, players, to help change this, as well as, get your act together, get your head out of your butts, because we all know that this team isn't just struggling because it's coach. They're struggling because, well, let's see here. Mauro Manotas, I know that he didn't play until the 70th minute, but Mauro Manotas, he's got buyers from Cruz Azul. Albert Elise apparently has people wanting him from overseas. Apparently. I doubt that. I mean, I bet you after this game, after these couple of games, that stuff's going to stop. Who was our last goal scorer? I don't believe. Well, yeah, it was Albert Elise, or excuse me, Romel Kyoto. I think
it was Kyoto.
Yeah, Kyoto. He's been the star at the moment of this month. He has been the best player this month in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Our defense has been led by, I don't know, someone else. Yeah, it's sad to say this, but for an RGV standpoint, but I think it's time that we move Kyle Adams up, because I think he's better at maybe giving some directions here and there.
Or Connor.
Or who else? Yeah, Connor. But of course, Connor Donovan, I think he's still coming back from, well, obviously an injury, because we kind of don't see him out on the pitch.
And here's another thing, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say this right now. I think it's time that the Dynamo cut their losses and let Garcia go at the end of the season. He's not going to get any better.
Nope.
I know he was one of the first ones to be. Sorry, I know he was one of the first ones to be called up, along with Wilmer Cabrera, after the 2016 season for the Toros.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's been here in 2017, 2018, half of 2019, 2.5 seasons. You really haven't seen any huge improvement for him to show that he is an MLS starter or a decent backup. This is something that the Dynamo desperately need. It's time to cut your losses and either have him find another MLS team or try his luck in the USL. And even with that, I highly doubt that the Dynamo would want to send him back to RGV. I'd love to have him back in RGV because when he was with the Dynamo, he showed that he can be a good USL center back. But knowing the way the Dynamo run, that's not going to happen. So I think it's time. It's like I said, just let him go and try to find somebody better than him that'll actually respond in and week out or whenever they do call him. So let's take a quick read of the chat. So Alex Centeno says, I don't call it nuts, I call it passion. I feel as if the Dynamo need a coach like Miguel Herrera, someone with passion that can light a spark in the locker room. And here's a good question that Harry brings up. And now we're transitioning back with what this program is truly about, which is RGVFC. So Harry asks, if a coaching change is made with the Dynamo, how would that change things for RGV?
I don't think it would change things that much because, yes, of course, one coach wants one thing and another coach wants another thing. But in the long run, of course, we've seen it. We've seen how it's been. It takes time to grow this. It takes time to grow a team in general. Yes, we could see Jerson have to head off somewhere else because of all these changes being made, which that would be in a way beneficial for Jerson. I think it would. Of course, the main goal is when you're a coach in the USL, you want to get out of there when you're ready, when you know that you're ready, and also, really when you know that you're ready. And you don't want to stay in the USL for a long period of time. So, yeah, that would be beneficial to him. But at the same time, another thing is that, now you're looking at probably having to reset this team because they probably don't want this player or that player. They probably want more like Kyle Adams, or of course they don't want to run this whole 4-2-3-1 deal. They want to run the diamond or 5-3-2, I think. Mm-hmm. So, something around that sort is my point. They would want to change it up, so then you'd have to get players that would suit them and all that. So it's a bunch of changes that would probably have to be made for a coaching change at the higher level. But it also, in the long run, it's not like you're not going to need attackers, so you keep the attackers that you probably have. Because, look at Salazar. Salazar actually did good. Yes, he has played in the MLS before, so he just needed a brief little shake down at RGV. Mm-hmm. But then once he got back up, he's been playing pretty decently. So,
Cesar?
Going back to what you said about not wanting to stay in USL for a long period of time, I kind of see the point and don't see the point, because, and I don't mean to, like I said, last thing I want to do is step on anybody's toes, but Wilmer Cabrera left his after his first season, and then after that it was Junior Gonzalez, right?
Yes.
And then after that was Gershon Echeverry. This is Echeverry's
second
season. There we go. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I keep saying third.
Wait.
Is it?
No, it's second.
It is the second season. 2016-17.
Yeah.
Second season. And I really don't follow any other clubs that often, but I know Darren Powell's been with San Antonio FC for the entire season, hasn't he?
He's been a couple of seasons already. He's Harry. If you can answer that question, how long has Darren Powell been with San Antonio? But see, we say that, and he was so close to being fired with San Antonio because of bad results earlier this season. But here's another thing I do want to point out. Going back with what Jacob said a little while ago about being called up or moving on when you know you're ready, or when you truly are ready. That's been the problem with the Dynamo and RGV. Dynamo's been pulling players when everybody knows they're not ready for MLS. They don't get minutes, or when they do, they don't perform as they think everybody thinks that they do. And somehow it's RGVFC's or fault that this is happening. When we all didn't know that this is the Dynamo, this is Cabrera, this is Matt Jordan making these decisions to pulling our players earlier than when they truly are ready.
And that had been the sorry Edson.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that had been the problem for the longest time for the Toros, which in turn translated into the Dynamo's problems. I mean, the players had been sent up, sent down. All that travel is going to have a toll on the players. Not to mention, no chemistry is built between them. Same practice run or different practices during practice, and there's no consistency. I've never seen any consistency between either RGVFC or Houston Dynamo.
And when Coach Echeverry finally achieves some sort of consistency, boom, they're gone for X and Y reasons.
Mm-hmm. And the consistency showed. I mean, the results played out on the field. The best game that RGVFC have had this season, what was that one? Was against, I believe it was Colorado Rapids. That had almost 5 or 6 goals that game, no?
It was Vegas.
Vegas, there we go. It was against Las Vegas Lights.
Considering that they only had 3 shots on goal or 4 shots. Yeah, it was something crazy like that, which made the best post-game press conference for the visiting coach ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've said it, and I said it so many times, because I've always been very vocal on how bad the Dynamo are handling these inter-team transfers, loans, that they're just sending them the day before to travel or to head over to the Valley to prepare for a game, and you can't do that. You can't do that. That doesn't. It's just common sense that it's not really gonna work out like it should. Yes, they may be more talented on paper, but if they have no idea how the rest of the players play, then it's gonna make it much more difficult to achieve some sort of cohesion. I said it many times. The best times that RGVFC played, the best games that they've played, was when we had our core USL lineup playing as our starters. Once we had 2, 3, 4 Dynamo loanees playing at the same time, that's when things started going a lot more sour, easier than when we had our core players.
When I first noticed that was the 2017 inaugural game against San Antonio FC. The non-consistency within the roster.
Yeah. So
that's when I noticed things started to go a little bit haywire.
Yeah. So Ray says, keep in mind that Salazar had a long time without playing an MLS game prior to this season. Yes, Dynamo bought Salazar out of desperation thanks to the international calendar. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. But to me, this seems, we continue to say that we're getting the short end of the stick of this relationship. And one of the things I wanted to say during the day, but the more I thought of it, the more unfair it would be towards Coach Echeverry, towards our players, towards our technical staff, who are doing they're doing the best they can with what they have. And because I was going to say, we expect the Dynamo to save us when they can't even save themselves. But that would be unfair for Echeverry. That would be unfair for the players, because in the end, the Dynamo were the ones that brought these players over.
Yeah.
But for them to go out of their way to help out, to bolster, to strengthen RGV this season, when we know right now that the Dynamo is a huge dumpster fire at this moment, they're not going to do it. That's why I don't expect for there to be many roster moves during this transfer window for RGV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree. I don't expect to see almost any. I mean, I would hope for at least one, as I do for every single season, because apparently one has taught us, oh my gosh, we can have this type of team if we keep this player for a long period of time, apparently. So, yeah, I do 100% agree, because, yeah, they can't save themselves, though we haven't seen Houston Dynamo's new signee play yet. So that's one thing to keep, that the consistency might come back just with him. But then with RGVFC, it's at the moment, and this is kind of a good thing, it's all in their heads. Yeah, it's all their mentality for playing like this. From Chuy Enriquez, Carlos Small, Kyle Adams has been playing great, but from our midfield to we'll probably see Sam Junko back in the lineup this next week to I don't know. I don't even know. A lot more players just in this lineup, and well, like I said, it's on their heads. We'll hopefully see the shots on target rise, basically, and that will be key. And why I say that is because, well, it's been a steady increase from the past, 2 to 3 matches, really, if you really want to call all the way back to the Reno 1868 game when they lost 4-0, or even the Austin Bold FC game when they lost 1-0 at home.
Mm-hmm.
Why I would bring those up is because, well, yeah, you didn't really see RGVFC scoring in either of those games. Worst game was Reno. And then you go to RGV Toros and Sounders FC2, as Google still calls it, but of course we all know it's Tacoma Defiance. We saw the shots kind of rise for RGVFC. Maybe not necessarily on target, but we saw them get a lot more shots off. Then, of course, coming back to only losing 1-0 against Phoenix Rising FC, we saw a different team once again who had a lot more chances, who just got unlucky and failed to really score the tying goal in the end. So we've seen a steady increase. Once again, I just have to say it's in their head. They've got this. It's just a matter of, will it snap and they finally score? Hopefully. It's just like Brandon Morales said. I mean, now he's in Cornell, but it's so true. Once we score, we'll see the floodgates open, and I think we will see that again if we just get that one goal, because it will raise the confidence for not only Small, not only Chewy, the whole team, even coach.
Mm-hmm.
So they just need to get that goal and break that drought, and I think this team for RGVFC will be saved on their own without, of course, them having any help from, well, Houston Dynamo.
So, Cesar, anything else you want to add before we start talking about the Phoenix Rising match?
And hopefully, what Jacob said, hopefully it's soon, because we're already halfway through the season. We've got, let's see, July, August, September. We got
halfway now.
Past halfway now. We only got 3 months left
Around
until playoff contention starts slipping away.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
less than that before the playoff contention slip away.
Mhm.
This is, we got to fight now.
and hopefully we'll be able to see that in Saturday's match. I mean, we got Sacramento coming down to RGV, and if I'm correct, they have never lost down here, or they've never tied, or one of those two.
They've never lost. I think
There we go. That's
they've
the one.
come back and they've tied us before. I think one time we were up 2-0, something crazy like that. So we just had some bad luck against them.
It always seems that all the California teams so far, from what I've seen, with the exception of Orange County, have been able to just exploit RGV's weaknesses and just either tie it or come back with a 1-goal deficit and be able to win it.
So we'll talk about that match that'll happen this Saturday. We'll talk about it later on. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what you guys saw from the Phoenix Rising match. Jacob, I know you were there at the match, but what are your thoughts besides of what you've already mentioned?
Thoughts were this team played solid. We all of us knew that Phoenix Rising was going to play the way that they played, which was aggressive, no matter if they took the lead or not. It was very impressive in the first half from RGVFC, really playing defense really nicely, playing defense well, keeping Phoenix Rising out of really any total obvious goal scoring opportunity. It was a nice first half from them. They really proved that they could play well. Now, of course, once again, the defense was on point. But for how long can a defense stay amazing for? Probably not 90 minutes. You're going to have your players, your key players in the defensive line get tired. That's okay. All Phoenix needed was one opportunity. And so they took that opportunity. Now, RGVFC, on the other hand, they looked like a better team coming back from the weeks that they had that month that they had, which was not necessarily a great one. So they just seemed like a different team from those points.
Well, one of the things that I kind of saw from this match is, and it was interesting that we had, I think, was like 3 new players or 3 Dynamo Loonies with us this in the defense. We had Sam Junqua playing. We had Alejandro Fuenmayor playing as well. And then you also had, of course, let me get the lineup. Andrew Samuel. So you had 2 RGV players and 2 Dynamo Loonies with us. And yet, barring Alejandro Fuenmayor's lack of awareness in the goal, they did not look that bad. Sam Junqua once again showing how much he's improved compared to with other times he's been here before. Which is, and I really enjoy that. Oh, Tyler Derrick in goal as well. You know, this Phoenix Rising team was coming in hot offensive wise. And to be able to limit them to just 1 goal, that's really great on the defensive part. But, and here's the big but about it. Even if we got the shutout, we would not have won because we can't score any goals. The defense is good. Having a good defense is good. But the end of the day, the point is to win. And if your attackers don't generate or aren't precise enough to score the goals with the opportunities that they're given, then, like you said, you're going to frustrate the defense because they're going to be like, well, we're doing our best to do our job, but the ones up front are struggling, and you can't hold on to you can't be excellent for a long period of time. It's just human nature that eventually your level is going to drop. And what's gonna happen if you can't score? You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose more. I understand. Like, I completely understand that these guys are doing their best with the opportunities that they're given. But it's imperative. It's imperative to get out of this rut for the sake of the team. And I trust these guys. I trust Chuy. I trust Carlos. I trust Chelin, Camilo Monroy. But but at the end of the day, you know, we have to score, and the best time to get out of it is now against Sacramento Republic, because we're at home. It's going to be really bad if we can only get 1 point from a three straight home games.
Yep.
Cesar?
Now you pretty much said it all.
So looking at this lineup, you know, it's interesting to see, you know, Eric Bird, the Birdman, back. Man, I miss that guy. We see.
Second that.
We have Isidro Martinez. You know, just kind of surprised that we didn't see Romilio Hernandez as a starter. You had him. He wasn't even on the bench apparently either. So, but I don't know. Google says that this was a different formation. Jacob, is this true? Was this more of a 4-1-4-1 formation, or was he at a 4-2 typical 4-2-3-1?
Well, yeah, he was at the 4-1-4-1. It was a different formation for sure, and I completely understand why. You got to push a bit forward for sure, and it proved. Yeah, he was at that different formation, and I mean the good news is it kind of worked in a way. We had 12 shots and 2 shots on goal, which was pretty cool. It's an improvement nonetheless, and that's what you want. Now, I keep on going back to this. It was very unlucky because considering you've had a shot almost hitting 2 posts at once, but of course hits the 1 post and knocks out. That could have been a different. That could have been a changer in that whole entire match at that time. Now,
yeah.
Good news is none of our players really got. None of the Toros, really got sucked into how Phoenix Rising wants you to play, which is, of course, kind of fighting you in a sense. You're gonna be aggressive, and when a team plays aggressive like that, you can't fall into their traps. Luckily for us, we really didn't fall into their traps, except for, I guess, one getting a yellow card, Chuy Enriquez. In a sense, he kind of did. But other than that, yes, of course, you got to put the ball in the back of the net when you have that opportunity. We had 2 of them, and one was very unlucky. The other was just, not necessarily a great strike indeed.
Which was a huge improvement from that Austin Bold match.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned it. Against Austin Bold, they easily fell in the trap that Austin Bold left of them, trying to get them out of concentration. Against Phoenix Rising, they were a lot more. They were a lot more concentrated. They knew what they were playing, and they didn't let Phoenix Rising get in their heads. Like I said, that's a huge improvement, and I think it helps having Memo Rodriguez, Eric Bird along for the ride. But I honestly was not expecting a close scoreline. I thought that Phoenix was gonna win. I think I was gonna win like 3-1 or something, but it wasn't gonna be close. And the fact that they held them on to 1, that is really good. Cesar?
I know that game had surprised me big time. I think I caught that one at home. You know, on the field, RGV did seem like the better team, but they came so close, but you can only come so close in horseshoes.
That's a good one. But all right, so another topic that I do want to bring up, still related with this match. Kevin Rodriguez, what are your thoughts so far on the young lad, Jacob?
Kevin Rodriguez, he's been improving every single match. I think he's got a ton to grow for sure. And yes, he gets subbed out some games, of course, which is pretty normal. But he's not a bad player. He's got room to grow. He really helps this team out, especially when you've got some veterans on this squad, coming back from injury. AKA Eric Bird was one that, he's still coming back from injury, but he's on this field helping them out. So that's a really good it's a really good thing. So yeah, he's got room to grow and only up from here.
To me, it seems like yes, he's improving. He just needs to get used to. We need to find his style, because Malik Foster had his style, Michael Salazar had his style, and Coach Echeverry fine-tuned the team in a way that benefited both of their styles. Chu Enriquez has his style too. But now he's at a point where Coach Echeverry is tinkering with, how can I get the best out of Kevin Rodriguez? How can I get the best out of Carlos Small? Yep. And we saw him putting in a 2-striker formation last time against Seattle Sounders. Tacoma Defiance. Now we're seeing him in a 4-1-4-1 formation as well. It's just a matter. I think it's just a matter of time. If I recall correctly, he came with high regards from Brazos Valley Cavalry, so we know the kid has talent, and so does Nico Lemoyne, and all these other young players that came from Brazos Valley. It's just at this point that they're trying to figure out how to best implement what they bring into this team. And when they do, I think we're going to be fine. But I do think we still need some help from a more experienced individual, because whether we like it or not, whether the Dynamo like it or not, even though this is a development team, this team looked way better when we had veterans along with the young guys. Yep. Malik, who's had international experience, who's played with one of the best Costa Rican teams that there is, which is Alajuelense, and Michael Salazar, having played in MLS, having played with the Belize national team, that helped out a lot, our guys. Now we don't have either one of those. We don't have experienced players in the attack. And I know you don't believe me, but we don't have any experienced players in the attack. And like that experience to have, except for Carlos is small. But I think we need somebody else to complement him. I feel like Carlos Small has the experience, but I think he's a little too shy to be that vocal guy, to be that guide for somebody else.
What the Dynamo need, basically.
And that's just that's just my thoughts on that. Like, I really appreciate and I really like Carlos Small because he's showing he's on fire, that he's such a good player. But right now, with Kevin Rodriguez, continually developed at RGV, we might need somebody that can help him grow with the experience and can make an impact on the field. Those are just my thoughts. If we want to make that jump, not only in results with the team, but also kind of speed up the developmental process for Kevin, for Camilo, for Nico Lemoyne, you name it. And Jacob, I saw you nodding in disgust.
Yeah, because I disagree 100% on this. Why? Because we got
Finally!
Eric Bird right here. We got Eric Bird.
But for how
He
long?
has more experience. Let me be clear.
But we go back to the same point about it. They're not here week in and week out. They're not here during the practices when they have a lot more contact with these players and helping them develop. What's the point of having Eric Bird for that role when he's not there during the week in practices to help Coach Echeverry guide these young guys and help them develop? That's my point right there. Yes, we have Eric. Yes, we have Memo now, and we've had Tyler Derrick on goal. We've had I don't know. Help me out here. Juan David Cabeza sometimes as well. But they're not here week in and week out, and that's the thing. And that's why we keep on saying, if the Dynamo are going to loan out players to RGV, players that you know you're not going to use, send them out on a not long term, but not short term of a 1 day, 3-4 weeks at RGV, practicing, playing, traveling with hanging out with the team. That is going to make a huge difference in this team. But apparently, and we go back to this topic, neither Wilmer nor Matt Jordan understands this. To me, it seems like they're too proud or they just want to hoard their players to the Dynamo and then take our good ones and kind of leave us with the rest. When this relationship has to benefit both of us mutually, and right now the only one benefiting is the Dynamo. Why? Because they use RGV to to rehabilitate their players when they're off of injury. Why don't we see players like Eric Bird more often? Why don't we see players like Marlon Hairston get confidence in USL Championship, or Tommy Mack get more confidence in USL Championship when you know that he's not doing well in MLS? I know the answer why, and it all has to do with roster depth. If we send Tommy Mack to RGV, Chewy isn't ready yet, I don't think. But we don't know because we haven't seen him against MLS opponents. We know what the best opportunity is going to be against Club America. To see if he can handle playing along higher caliber players.
But at the same time, and I mean, this is, again, just my opinion, half the time he can't play against regular USL players. He looks like he's beat constantly out there now because I think everything is all in his head. It goes back to really what I'm thinking. And I mean, I've heard this before. They really do think that they're better than they are. And it becomes a problem. And yeah, me watching Chuy Enriquez, starting week in and week out against USL opponents, how long has he not scored a goal? A long time. If he was really ready, he'd be scoring goals almost constantly or giving assists for RGV, but he's not. So then that becomes a big problem. It's like, well, you're not performing here. What makes you think you're going to perform up against, I don't know, Club America, up against an actual MLS opponent, let alone a Champions League opponent? So
you have a point there, and I mean that's always been the issue with the Dynamo. And you do have a point about Chuy Enriquez being on a huge slump. This what we had this last couple of matches. But the point is that the Dynamo really need to think long and hard about how they're handling this pipeline. The only thing this is leading to is animosity between from RGV fans towards the Dynamo fans towards RGV because in their eyes RGV's not doing their job in developing players that are first team ready.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamo fans against RGV fans. I mean, and in the end of the day, the Dynamo technical wise, they're suffering because they don't know how to handle this pipeline. And I can't believe we're in year 4. We're in year 4 of this pipeline, and this glaring mistake has yet to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I know we can't 100% blame the Dynamo for our bad spell, because we have to make do what we gotta, and a lot of the times when we've had bad results is because of things the team has not done, and we're the first to admit it. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, who's the one that supplies us with the roster? The Houston Dynamo. Who's the one that comes like a vulture and takes all away our good players when we're barely getting on a roll? Houston Dynamo. Who doesn't bring in somebody to replace that player that they've taken? Houston Dynamo.
It's always going to come back to them.
And I mean, real quick, to be fair, this season hasn't necessarily been Houston Dynamo picking out our players. It's been, of course, international duty. So then you had people like, of course, Malik Foster,
mm-hmm.
and then the other big one, the Belize national, Michael Salazar, who actually had to go and play, I believe, a couple of times. So, and we all kind of knew it was going to happen, especially this year, because they don't pick youngsters for a World Cup. They pick them for a Gold Cup. It makes sense. And then for whatever Belize was in. Of course, it's just regular international duty in general. And point being, well, what are you going to do about that? We all knew that this was going to happen for at least Malik. We didn't expect to get Michael Salazar, and then we get Michael Salazar, who benefited us. Comes back, plays for the Houston Dynamo after his international duty is over. And then, of course, you can't get a replacement. Yes, of course, you'd like to get a replacement because, I mean, it's just going to help you in general. But then you got to make do with what you get, because half the time it's just not going to work, and that's how small teams, or how I think small teams are run, which is fine. So, yeah, we all knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stress this enough. Now it's up for these players to take advantage of their opportunity.
Keywords. Take advantage of that opportunity. Cesar, you say it as well.
Take advantage of their opportunity.
Bingo. So, leading off with this discussion that we've kind of branched into when it comes to the ideas or the vision that the Dynamo have over RGV. So, an article came out this afternoon, on The Athletic. And this article states that the USL is seriously contemplating having MLS-owned teams moved from USL Championship to USL League One. Now, this doesn't really, according to the article, they don't know how the hybrid teams are going to be affected, whether it's Rio Grande or Reno 1868. But what they're saying is there's a difference in vision between the USL as a league and MLS seeing this as a developmental. MLS says that they want their two teams in the USL Championship because they want to see how their young guys are going to react playing against veteran players. But the league wants a league full of teams that are going to be competitive, that are going to bring in people to the stands. They want teams that are going to put up a fight and not an easy 3 points for your independence. That's what they want. Now, it makes sense in their vision. It makes sense if you're going to be fielding under 23s or under whatever, or young guys from your academy, then it seems like USL League One is a better choice in the eyes of the USL, because you're going to be playing against other teams that have the same mindset as you, and it's much cheaper to get into USL League One than in the USL Championship. The entrance fee, I believe it said in the article, for the championship is $9 million, $1 million for USL League One.
Yeah, this is pretty funny because I'm looking at the standings right now. Guess who's in second place in the East?
Red Bull.
Red Bulls reserves.
The baby Bulls.
They are freaking, I don't know, the Red Bull reserve team, and they're fighting for a freaking championship just in the regular season. Look at how successful that team is. Yeah, of course, not every single team is like this, but that's a big freaking step. You go down, I mean, then why not have Nashville in League One, Louisville City in League One too? Because, I mean, both of them are going to be in the MLS next year, so why not? If you want to talk about it like that too, that those players, yeah, they're of course, their whole idea is to, well, go into the MLS, so why not? But they're in freaking playoff contention too in the East, which is, in my eyes, a tougher division somewhat for at least top 8 teams.
And
you still have Charleston. Atlanta United too, yeah, they're the only ones that are doing pretty bad.
And that's one of the things that MLS clubs or his MLS sources mentioned in the article. They mentioned that a couple of MLS2 teams have made a huge commitment, have made a huge investment into fixing up their stadiums to be D2 compliant, that have been competitive in the league, like Red Bulls 2, like Real Monarchs. I mean, Real Monarchs also built in Zions Bank Stadium. They made a huge investment in order to stay in the USL Championship. And now, all of a sudden, the league wants to move all of them down to USL League One. To them, it doesn't seem fair. One of the things that the writer mentioned, that he feels like that the USL is open to creating some exceptions for Red Bulls 2 and Real Monarchs. In other words, they have to show their commitment to being competitive in USL Championship. Now, my question is, how much does this going to affect RGV? Is the Dynamo's vision compatible with USL Championship?
I know that they're not necessarily looking to have RGV as an MLS team. So them moving down to League One I don't know if it would. Me personally, I think it would benefit RGVFC as far as rosters are concerned, because are they going to, you know, I know they're going to drop all MLS affiliated teams in USL down to League One. That's what they're proposing. But will it cut ties with the MLS affiliated team?
To me, it seems along the lines that this is starting to become shaky ground with the USL MLS relationship, because for a long time the USL played nice with MLS. Why? Because MLS brought a lot of investment towards the USL and it helped them grow. Now that the USL has become stable, now that the USL has grown to the point where they're attracting new investors to join in to buy a USL franchise in not only Championship but League One and League Two, it's come to a point where USL is thinking, well, I don't need that much help from MLS anymore. But MLS, I feel it's more along the lines of, this is the way it's done, this is the way it should be. They don't want that to change. Yes, they give the reasoning about playing against more veteran opponents. But if you have players that aren't ready to go up for veterans, then you're minimizing the talent pool in the league. This should be, if you want this should be a gradual thing. Dynamo kind of has it right in the regard as they have USL League 2 with Brazos Valley Cavalry, and then you have the Toros, and then the Dynamo. But from what we've seen this season, it's taken a while for the Brazos Valley Cavalry players who have played alongside other under 23 teams in the USL League 2. They had a harder time, or it's taken them a while to get in the groove of USL Championship. So, to me, it seems like the logical way of development would be League 2, League 1, Championship. Because at least in USL League 1, you do see a couple of more veteran players, but it's a more gradual improvement, and you kind of get a base about what's happening, about how they're developing into the process. Yeah. When you feel they're ready, that they're able to be competitive in USL League 2, then you could start thinking of putting them into USL Championship. Granted, this all takes huge amounts of money. And MLS,
and time.
Yes, and MLS teams obviously they don't have a lot of money to spend to bring in another new team. So the best thing in their eyes for them is to kind of throw them in the bull, try to throw them in the pen, and see if they can dance along with the bull, or with the lion, whatever floats your boat. Mm-hmm. Which I understand that point of view, but in the point of view of fans of the USL, and Harry's not gonna let me lie, this is pulling the USL back as a whole, because we're seeing teams that are playing in crappy baseball stadiums. We're seeing right. Mm-hmm. We're seeing teams that can barely manage 500 people going to watch a game. LA Galaxy 2. And all of that looks bad for a league that's trying to grow. Yes, a lot of these teams like El Paso, like Louisville City, like Indy 11 with their football lines on their field, there's plans to expand, to get a new stadium, and that's not a baseball field. So at least those teams are showing there's some commitment to growing along with the league. But frankly, MLS 2 teams like Tacoma Defiance, LA Galaxy 2, for the most part, are content to being bottom of the table teams.
Bethlehem Steel, Swole Park Rangers, Atlanta too. I'm looking at their standings right now.
Well, look at Atlanta United too, though. They're in 17th, but one win would put them tied, basically. Considering maybe they could score a couple of extra goals too, they would probably be put about 13th position. Then not that far away from playoff contention too. So they're still technically in it. Of course, a couple more losses, and I'd be saying a different thing. So they're still technically in this for a playoff hunt. That's a goal for not only every USL team, but I believe an MLS 2 team. Sounder FC 2, aka Tacoma Defiance. I still don't get why Google calls them that, but oh well. But Sounders FC 2, they are on a little bit of a growing stretch, as in they just don't have a lot of good players at the moment in their system. Look at how long it took. Not just, I mean, the Toros are still growing, but
Portland.
Look at how long it took the Pink Cows, as Ray would say, to get up to where they're at, where they won the championships in USL. Look at how long it took Portland Timbers too, as well. They're right in contention for even a regular season title, which would probably not happen, but they're right there. They're in 5th place for a perfect opportunity at a great home field advantage through playoffs.
But we haven't seen here's the thing, and I keep on going back to the point that I made. These teams have shown a commitment to improve in some areas in the aspect. Red Bulls in the technical area, like I said, they've won a championship already. Their attendance really isn't that great, and that's why Harry says they feel like that's why they're looking at Red Bulls in this case. Not because of what they do on the field, but what's going on off the field. They can barely, he said it, they are, I think he said 715 is their average. 715 fans. That's their average so far this season. That doesn't look good in the eyes of the league. They want this league to grow. They want a bigger fan base in whatever markets they're at. And if this franchise is taking up space in a market that's not going to bring in fans to the league, why would they want them in their top brand? Think about it that way as well.
No, that is definitely really weird, considering how well the attendance is for the actual Red Bulls, and considering that it's not only just that, they're just really being extremely poor on, I don't know, advertisement. It doesn't pay that much to advertise, first off, especially when you're a club that, yes, we haven't won a championship in MLS, but we sure as heck have great up and coming freaking players. Okay, that's on the Red Bulls team in general, just FO for them. That blows my mind. Makes me furious, actually, because in the long run, it's a freaking quick subway to train ride to get anywhere in the city of New York to Newark, New Jersey. In the long run, it does not take that long to get any place in freaking New York. So
yeah, but
that's crappy. That makes me very upset.
Cesar?
And going back to advertising, I know that's been, not majority of the problems for the Toros, because back when they had first started
pretty well.
Yeah, back when they had first started out playing in the practice fields, I mean, they were sellout games, considering that, the Toros were still relatively new, and they had a good team behind their back. They had good players, and once HEB Park had gotten built, I mean, the inaugural game for the Rayados versus Toros, that was completely different subject, but that was a packed house only because
It was
because of
Rayados.
Monterrey fans. Yeah. And funny enough, I was actually on the Toro side for that one. But after that, the only time we ever saw sellout crowds was when Liga MX came down to the Valley, and then advertising during the second and third season was left much to be desired.
Oh yeah.
And now marketing is doing I don't want to say better, but a pretty decent job as to the past 2 seasons that they've had once HEB Park had been finished.
I mean, the bar was set really low.
Yeah.
But an improvement is an improvement, and I definitely am grateful for that, because at least the front office is showing some sort of commitment to helping this team grow. And I can take like I say in Gin Orange all the time. I take any small victories whenever I can, and to me this is a small but a decent victory that the front office figured out that they have to do something better with marketing to try to get people, and it's kind of working. Beginning of this season, we had like 3,500 average, and now it's kind of building back to the 4,500 reported attendance.
Yep.
So
I know that doesn't show on ESPN Plus though.
yeah, well, I mean that's a different story, but an improvement is an improvement. I mean, if they aren't going to make it, let's be honest. The way announced attendances are kind of calculated, it's not based on the number of tickets that are scanned at the gates. It's the number of tickets sold or given away. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's going to be a lot of teams that are people that are not going to make it to the game, but they're still counted, right? Mm-hmm. So seeing that improvement and at least people receiving tickets, that's a good thing. Now I really wish we can go back. We can start being back to 7,000s when we were in the 7,000s. At least that's what I hope one day we'd be back. But it's going to take a better job in marketing, which this year is kind of like a trial and error kind of thing, seeing what works, what doesn't. Mm-hmm. Next year, hopefully, there'll be a lot. They'll bring in a lot more tactics to try to get people to talk about the Toros, to go and watch the Toros match. But it's also going to take on-field things to work to get better.
Open Cup, U.S. Open Cup.
Well, that is a topic that I would like to avoid just because it's so confusing. It's been how many years, and it's been how many years, and we still have no idea why Reno 1868 can participate in Open Cup and why the Toros cannot, when they're both hybrid affiliates of MLS teams.
Who's Reno affiliated with? I
San
really
Jose.
have no clue.
San Jose Earthquakes.
That makes sense because they are as trashy as them. Oh, well.
Hey, be careful! Be careful! They're gonna be throwing a bottle of water at you.
Exactly, or accidentally spill their beer on me. Happened. Funny quick story. I've heard this because I've been to Portland multiple times watching their game, and I was on the away side one time. The away, I don't know, but he's super nice dude. Either way, from Portland, and told us that because we had heard from San Jose, the San Jose dudes as well, saying, "Oh yeah," or not San Jose, Seattle dudes saying, "Oh yeah, San Jose fans, they're the worst. They cannot be controlled half the time." So what happened was there was a San Jose lady walking back with her beer, and I mean wasted perfectly good beer. So what was the beer? And it also stunk for another person from a Portland side because they got soaked up in beer, and so instantly gets kicked out. So yeah,
that's a given.
Well, I mean now you have LAFC fans trying to go for that prize, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're pretty crazy too.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. And then you've had this recent thing that happened this past weekend here in Houston that made a huge conundrum. But we're getting off topic. The point that we're trying to make is that we would like to see more people go and to support the Toros, but it's going to take a commitment from everybody. It's going to take a commitment from front office to continue to improve on what they've done, and that is also fixing the mistakes that they have made this year, which I know of a couple, but we'll keep that off the air and try to help out as much as possible, kind of like in private. Obviously, the technical aspect needs to improve. The Dynamo relationship needs to improve as well, and also I think the commitment from fans I think needs to improve as well. And the point that we need more people to be more involved with the Toros, not just come game day, but every other day as well. Whether it's talking about the Toros on social media or commenting, liking, sharing, anything that is shared in social media about the team, all of that helps. But there's improvements to be made, but there's still a long way to go if we want to be where we want to be. Now, the biggest thing is going back with the topic we were talking about, because you brought it up, Jake. I think it was you, Jacob, and Cesar, about the attendance at the beginning of 2016 and Red Bulls only managing 715 people this season. To me, it seems more along the lines of I feel like the reason people are not supporting Red Bulls 2 is because it's a developmental team. It's a farm team. Fun is the wrong word, but they don't see the point of trying to support New York Red Bulls 2 at all, from what we're seeing, because they're a developmental team. They have won a championship, like I said before, but it seems to me that even with that, because it's a developmental team, because it's literally a 2 team in as far as their name is concerned.
I was gonna say the name's in the crest.
Yeah, they aren't willing to go out of their way to support New York Red Bulls 2 when they've already got enough on their plate supporting New York Red Bulls, the MLS team. And as far as the Toros are concerned with that, and Sean and I have kind of talked about it before when it comes to this, as far as the way the team was marketed back in 2016. That's why we saw a lot of people going out there to the Toros. When the team was founded, you brought in Wilmer Cabrera, who came from being an under-17 coach, a World Cup player for Colombia. You've brought in players from around the USL. You've brought in players from abroad like Charlie Ward, like Zen and Katic as well.
And then you brought in players from the MLS as well, too.
Exactly. And the whole marketing aspect of it was, this is going to be a championship fighting, hopefully winning team. This was never marketed to us as a developmental team. And then seeing what they brought in 2016, we kind of got into the hype of, okay, yeah, this team is going to be to fight for the championship. But once Cabrera left to go to the Dynamo, you started seeing all these changes of getting rid of Zen and Katic for health reasons, which I understand it. As far as I know, he couldn't recover from the concussion that he received at the end of the season.
That's what happened.
As far as if I recall correctly, that's what it was. He had gotten a concussion, which had left him out for a long time, but he never fully recovered. Then you had all these players go up to the Dynamo, and then all you were brought back pretty much were more developmental players. Sure, you brought in Kyle Murphy. Sure, you kept TJ Kastner. You kept who else?
I wonder how that man's doing, by the way. TJ Kastner.
I think he's still in college. I haven't heard a lot from him at all. But
Rob Lovejoy was another one.
yeah, but he retired as well, or
Yeah.
he didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of knew.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you started seeing less stars, or less stars being brought in, or less higher quality experienced. That's the word, experienced players on this team. And the Dynamo started focusing more on bringing in young guys to develop. And that's where this difference in vision between fans and the Dynamo kind of brought a rupture, as well as obviously the results. But it kind of brought up a rupture of like, hey, we were promised a championship fighting team, a playoff team. But all we see are bringing in a bunch of young guys that nobody knows, losing all the time. The coach thinks everything's going great when everybody knows that this team isn't doing well.
Junior.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And people started to kind of drift away from the team. But my question, I'm saying all of this, but do you think things would have been differently had the Dynamo or RGV, excuse me, marketed themselves from the get-go as a developmental team rather than a championship winning team? Would we have been a New York Red Bulls 2 with having that bad of a dismal attendance?
No.
I think we would have been playing in our practice field for a bit longer and not necessarily had HEB Park. And what I mean by HEB Park is we would have just had a smaller stadium, not a 10,000 seat stadium, because we were being marketed just differently. And yeah, to be fair, they marketed this team way off, just considering, like you said, like the players that we named, not even close to being deserved to be marketed as a developmental team. That was a championship winning team for sure. I mean, you're talking about the not being scored on for a long period of time.
Second place in the Western Conference.
Exactly.
Just behind Sacramento.
Yep. All of that. That's a championship winning team for sure, because you had the veterans, you had basically the Phoenix Rising mentality. And of course, yeah, we all know what Phoenix Rising is doing. We all know what even Austin Bold's doing too. They've got these vets in this team. That's the whole reason why they're great. I applaud them. That's what the USL wants. I get that now. As I'm talking more and more, I think my mind is kind of shifting as well. Yeah, you put yourself into a USL championship team, as in this is a freaking farm team, like it or not. Yeah, you get a bit of a smaller crowd, make your stadium about 5,000 instead of 10, just like, I don't know, the Austin Bolt Stadium, because that's a beautiful stadium, as well as Orange County's 5,000. You're almost selling out games constantly because of that. That's just the way that it needed to be marketed from the start, but they changed it up and decided to have a big showing in their first year and then go way downhill after that.
But that's because our front office had big dreams for the franchise, for the Toros.
Yeah, they
had no idea
they want to get out into the MLS.
They had no idea, or were oblivious to the idea. I don't know what it is. But they didn't have the idea that the Dynamo were not going to put their end in making this a championship winning team. Hey, we got a call.
Hey,
it's probably Ray.
No. Welcome to Down in the Valley. Who are we speaking with? Hold on. Hello?
Hey, Edson and Terry.
Hey, how you doing, Harry?
there he is.
Oh, Terry.
Harry.
Hey.
How you doing? How you doing, man? How you doing, man? Yeah, we can hear you just fine. How you doing, buddy?
Okay. Doing well. So a couple things, because I'm probably, a minute or so behind you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess here's my question from the San Antonio side. I think, with Austin going super old, which I think is going to come back and bite them, but with RGV and the Houston Dynamo, how it came, and I know you and Sean have debated this before, but what changed? Because it was both sides that were saying it was going to be, a mixed team, instead of just being, it wasn't going to be, that's why they said it's a hybrid team. And, to answer your question on what's different between Reno and San Jose and Houston and the RGV relationship, is that Reno can sign players. So even though San Jose kind of controls it, as far as playing style, coaching staff, stuff like that, technically the ownership of Reno can bring in players. So it's really more like an affiliation, a super affiliation for that here, which I found, to be kind of in the middle of red tape there, because, if the technical staff is still San Jose, and you're bringing in, let's say Dane Kelly as an example, who wasn't part of, the San Jose squad at all, you kind of wonder, just how that makeup is. But to me, I guess that's my question to you guys, is what changed in this relationship?
Well, we've seen a lot of change. I think from the start was, it was a random, we're going to send these players basically off. We expect these players not to be back. And then not to mention that right off the bat, Houston Dynamo grabbed Coach Wilmer Cabrera. That was also another big shock. So now, of course, RGVFC, not to mention Houston's kind of scrambling to get themselves a new coach for RGVFC.
That one,
so now
I
you got
honestly
to restart that whole team up. And then you take a couple of those players instantly, Houston Dynamo not knowing how to really control this from that standpoint. And then Junior Gonzalez leaving as well, because he gets another job opportunity or basically gets sacked in a way. Then we get this new coach. So it was all, I wouldn't say it was all doomed from the start, but it was just people taking away the players too fast, or taking away coaches too fast, where RGVFC couldn't necessarily ever get started the way that they were designed to.
Any growth by the team, by the Toros, would get nipped by the Houston Dynamo, and so we'd always be back in square one at the end of the season. And I think that's the biggest thing that has hindered RGV's growth, is the fact that every year or 2 years we have to start from zero. We have to find new players. We have to find a new coach. Thankfully, we kept Coach Echeverry for another year. But the biggest thing to me that frustrates me, ever since Matt Jordan admitted it in Glenn Davis's show, is that they only have the patience for these players for 2, maximum of 3 years. If they don't deem themselves MLS ready by that time, they're out. And you can't possibly explain, or you can't possibly expect a player to become a legend, a player to become connected with the fans, a player to develop. There's players that grow right away, and there's players that take a while to develop. But even those players that might take a while might end up being more talented for you when they get to their best of their ability. And we saw it with Charlie Ward. This was a player that connected really well with the fans. The fans loved him. He loved the fans. He continues to be the best passer in the USL.
Yep.
But the Dynamo seemed him worthy to take him away from RGV, but not worthy enough to even warrant a minute. That's where things went sour. The Dynamo started focusing more on how they would benefit and not how both teams would benefit. They only saw how to help themselves, and not that they have a responsibility to make this team good as well. To make it what's the word I'm looking for? challenging. No, that they're able to fight with everybody else in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Be top contenders.
Yeah.
But so this is where I'm at. If Houston wants to have, because to me, Houston wants to have a 2-team. And to me, if you want to have a 2-team, you know, what's the difference between what Houston's doing right now and what North Texas is doing? I don't see a whole lot. They're doing youth where they do, you know, where they're promoting up. And if they don't, then they move them out. Like, you know, we've got Mo Hernandez. I know Austin's got a couple of players from Dallas as well.
Here,
to me, if that's the path you're wanting, then League One is the better option.
correct. To me, that also seems correct. I mean, North Texas, like you said, you know, they're in League One, which is right off the bat cheaper. Number two, biggest difference is the North Texas technically is in the same vicinity playing as the big team, as FC Dallas, whereas Houston Dynamo are 6 hours away from RGVFC, playing in the championship, but with the mentality typical of more of a League One kind of team. So that discrepancy in vision, that I think that's what's hurting RGV in this process. And like you said, I think that's the biggest difference between FC Dallas and the Houston Dynamo. I think FC Dallas made a wiser decision based upon their vision because this team, North Texas, it's to help develop their academy and nothing else. And we know how much better their academy is compared to the Dynamos. So the fact that they made that decision like that, and hold on, let me see how they're doing.
They're in a playoff match.
Yeah, so they're able to fight in USL League One because their academy is good and because their vision is more aligned with everybody else's, whereas RGV is kind of struggling to get to a playoff spot consistently throughout the season because there's so much movement going on with this roster. By the way the Dynamo handles it, that we can't get some sort of stability with this team, and that's what's hurting us. And when you've got other really talented teams like Phoenix, like Sacramento, like you get the point. You know, it makes it much more obvious how far from reality their vision was for this team than what it actually is bringing us.
But to me, and I know you and I kind of discussed this, and to me, the solution is very easy, and is, you know, if you want to have that 2-team, have it was it Brazos Valley, the USL League 2 team, PDL team, have that as the 2-team. You could still have a affiliation like the Rapids and the Switchbacks have, where you bring down 5 or 6 players that are going to be down, and you can have that rotation. But I think what's key and what's missing from the Valley, and you know, you mentioned Charlie Ward, is that ability for the local ownership to be able to bring in somebody that can connect with the Valley. Like, you know, here in San Antonio, we've been able to bring in, you know, local kids, like Matt Cardoni and other ones. Some have worked out, some haven't. But I think, you know, we're, you know, especially down, in the Valley, if you were able to bring in, like Austin's had, maybe some aging, Liga MX players, or, you know, even some younger players in the Valley, I think, you guys' attendance isn't horrible. It's what, 3,000,
4,000 right there.
3,500 somewhere.
4,000.
4,000.
4,000.
Yeah, according to 37.95 so far, I guess is the average.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you guys could average, and this is where San Antonio's at now, we're between 6,000 and 7,000. If you guys could bring it up to 5,000, I think that, especially with the cost, I think that would be more profitable, for the local ownership down there. Because at some point, you're going to look at the bottom line, and is it really paying off for the local owner down there to be affiliated with Houston, in this manner, because I just don't think it's working. The relationship that San Antonio has with RGV, San Antonio and Austin, San Antonio and El Paso. I think that RGV, unfortunately, because they have that two stigma attached to them, it hurts that relationship just a little bit. Now, like I said here, I know when it comes to on the pitch and the banter on there, on social media, it's lots of fun, but I personally would love to see, RGV, and even if it's like an affiliate, like, the Switchback, where you guys are able to bring in, 2 or 3 players that you guys want to bring in that will, enhance, the rivalry down there.
And I know the bottom line is, well, not necessarily the bottom line, but, people want a winning club that they can get behind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
why else have we had so much of a good turnout when Liga MX teams come to play down in the Valley? I know obviously they've had a lot of time to, develop their fan bases, but because they win, people love to be behind a winning team. And right now, RGV, they ain't. And I know it also has to go back to, consistency of the roster, which necessarily isn't RGV's fault. But
and here's the thing, like, we can talk all the time about the reasons why we're not doing good and that it's out of Coach Echeverry's control for the most part. But at the end of the day, the more casual fans, all they care about, are you winning? Are you displaying good soccer? If you're not, I'm not going to go support you. That's the bottom line. Yeah. And if this team is going to, if the Dynamo is going to continue to struggle to figure out how this relationship is going to work, then it's not going to work for ownership. It's not going to work for Alonso Cantu. And push comes, if it at the worst, he might pull out of the deal. And we've talked about it with Sean as well. It's like, it's a huge risk going at it independent because you don't have that big of an investment.
And I know he invested a lot of his personal money into this team, to grow it into what, I don't know what his dream is because, I haven't met the guy, but.
Well, I know from the beginning, he wanted the fan base to grow enough to continuously fill the stadium to the point to expand the stadium. This stadium was designed for expansion purposes as well. But right now, it comes to a point we're not filling up our 9,000 seat stadium, and if things are going like this, people are not going to be that motivated to go out week in and week out to HEB Park and support the Toros. And that's just the way it is.
And it also could come back to. Go ahead, Harry. I also think it could.
Harry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Harry.
I think coming into the season, I think we all thought that, coming in based on how RGV played last year, that RGV was a playoff caliber team. And I think, and I know there was, all the Gold Cup stuff and stuff like that, national team duties. But to me, RGV is baffling to me because at the beginning of the year they had talent, and then you guys have lost 3 or 4 of your top forwards or strikers, and I sent it out on social media. I was like, hey, is anybody going to bring in? Not one person, whether from the Dynamo or from RGV, thinks that RGV is going to get help. And I think, just as, as much as I like to, bag on RGV, I want you guys to be successful, just because it's good for Texas soccer here. Mm-hmm. As a fan base, how do you get behind that, knowing that at least like I said, I'm not attached to the team, but just as an outsider, Houston's looking out for number one, and I understand that. But if you have this relationship here, how do you not help support them, or at least give them a little bit of freedom? Whether if the owner wants to say, hey, I want to bring in player one or player two, I'll pay for it out of my pocket. How do you not allow them to do that, so that way the team locally can try to still be successful? And it just baffles me, to where I'm not an RGV fan, but it's frustrating, from a fan of the game, to where you've got to have some control if you're not going to be a traditional two team, and I think that's the advantage Reno has, and and the difference there is that if their owner wants to go out and get something, they have the ability to do it, and it doesn't come off of San Jose's books, which that's the issue, is the money side. But as always, good show, guys. I thought I would chime in and give my couple of cents, as an outsider. But I always love the work that all three of you guys do.
Thank you so much, Harry, for your support as well. And I know it's a lot harder to support the podcast of your rival team, but the fact, all the work that you put, all the support that you give everybody in the USL and podcasting world, I think we need more fans in the USL like you, and that will help us unite as a USL family, and that will only help out growing the sport of second division play in the United States, in a country where if you're not in first division, if you're not a winner, nobody wants to support.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You guys support us, and with the exception of 90 minutes, or 90 plus minutes, usually we're pretty good friends, and it's always fun to share beers with you guys, and hopefully there'll be a few RGV fans that make the trip up. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it down this year for the first time, but
I'll be there.
That'll be 2-3 weeks from now,
I'll try and
right?
be there.
And towards the end of August.
I think they got like 3 more games before they take on San Antonio up there.
Yeah,
I think
so.
Because I think it wasn't like in the.
It's in August. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, but it is in San Antonio. It's going to be the 17th of
There
August.
we go.
So a month from now, 4 weeks.
Yeah, a whole month.
4 weeks.
But hey, Harry, thank you so much for calling in as well. Like it's already 9 o'clock. I mean, this discussion was amazing. It was awesome. It's a shame that we have a time to keep, and hope one day we can make it 3, but today's not the day. But thank you so much for calling and for all of your support, man. And we'll continue talking on social media, bro.
Hey, no worries. Talk to you later.
All right. Have a good night, bro.
Thanks, Harry.
All right, guys. So, Jacob, Cesar, any last thoughts before we sign out?
Yeah, before we sign out, real quick, for Harry, put all that aside, all that, it's just up to the players right now. We all know that this is, like I said before, we all knew that this was going to happen. I'm over getting new players in general. It doesn't matter. I know this club the way that it is. Putting all that crap aside, it's up to the freaking players right now that we have to score goals, to do all that crap. And I know they're more than capable of doing it. And the perfect opportunity, just like we said, is against Sacramento FC. Prediction for that game, in my eyes, I do see us giving up a goal, but I do see us scoring some goals. Like I said, when we score, I think the floodgates are going to open up for goals, and we'll get ourselves a little bit of a, finally, victory over this club, 2-1. 2-1 victory. And to be exact, yes, it's going to be our defender, Kyle Adams, who's going to score the first goal. And then to go up 2-0, we're going to have none other than Chuy Enriquez. Chuy Enriquez.
I was going to say Carlos Small.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so
I
Cesar,
just wanted to be
yeah.
a joke there, but yeah, it's gonna be great.
If he scores, I'll buy him a watermelon.
Yes, yes.
Cesar, what's your prediction for this Saturday?
Mine was actually 2-1 also. I see Sacramento getting the first goal within the first half of the game. And then I see RGV getting the equalizer in stoppage time first half late, and I mean late, hopefully, within the second half to be able to get the winning goal and get us 3 points at home.
My prediction is 2-2 draw. I feel like Sacramento is going to get away with what they've always done, and that is being able to snatch a point late in the game. I feel like the like you said, Sacramento is going to score first, and then we come back with 2 goals. But at the dying moments, something's going to happen, and Sacramento is going to score. My predictions for the scorers are going to be Carlos Small and Camilo Monroy.
Oh yeah, and I didn't give my player predictions. I'm gonna go with the defender on the first goal at the 45-minute stoppage time goal is gonna be Connor Donovan.
Ooh.
Yeah. Considering that Kyle Adams has been the one very close to scoring any of our goals.
Yeah.
So bold prediction, Jacob.
Bold prediction. It's going to be a bit of of course it's going to be a hot one, but it's going to get even hotter because there's going to be a couple of tensions flaring throughout the match. And I think we'll see a couple of players getting sent off, maybe a Trey Enriquez and someone else from, I don't really know Sacramento Republic's team, but maybe another one from them. So 2 players getting sent off. Boom. 10v10. Epic grudge match. And now I would say 2-2 draw.
Cesar?
Bold prediction would be a 3-1 win for RGV. With at least, I'd say, 2 red cards apiece for each team. No sending offs. But yeah, tensions will be high on this one. I mean, we don't even know who the ref is for this one.
No.
All refs are pretty much bad in the USL.
Well, you know. My bold prediction for this match is 2-1 RGV. But the last goal scorer is going to be Sam Junkwa.
That's really bold.
That's my bold prediction right there.
As a starter or a substitute?
Starter.
Well, our predictions are set, gentlemen. Let's see how this event unfolds Saturday.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Talking about the Dynamo, talking about RGV as well. We'll see each other. So next week will be another Thursday show because RGV, I mean, Houston Dynamo / RGV will be playing Club America next Wednesday in BBVA Compass Stadium. So I will hopefully be there at that match. I'm still waiting on the confirmation if my credentials have been accepted. So next Thursday we'll continue talking about what happened next on that match and what happened against Sacramento, and looking forward to Las Vegas Lights.
I was wondering why y'all kept bringing up Club America. I'm like, do they have another international friendly or something? We just had one in HEB Park, but it's going to be up there in Houston, right?
Yeah, it's League. So it's Leagues Cup, which is like MLS versus Liga MX. The Dynamo will be playing Club America, but Wilmer Cabrera said on the record that he was probably going to use a lot of RGVFC players for that match.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see you next week, gentlemen. Last words.
It's way past my bedtime.
Go to bed, Grandpa. It's way past my bedtime. I'm surprised you didn't come up with like.
Outsiders!
I'm surprised you didn't come up with. You didn't post a picture from FaceApp of you looking
Actually-
old.
I did on Facebook.
Oh no.
Spitting image of my father.
Oh.
Oh no, the Russians are gonna hack into your phone now.
Well, there it is. Yeah, I know. Right? I know, right? I know, huh? So, Jacob.
Yeah, just looking forward to Saturday. It's gonna be a fun one for sure. Our last home game. Let's make it count once again. And I will say it. Take this opportunity, players, because oh my gosh, we need the 3 points, and it's up to you to show that you not only care about this club, but that you can play against USL championship clubs so that you can prove to Houston Dynamo and other clubs out there that you can go to the MLS, that you're MLS worthy. So take advantage of your opportunities.
You know what I've noticed? You know, I feel like we've become like this team's parents. It's like we've become like we can be hard on them sometimes, but at the end of the day, like we love them and we just want them to do good for their own benefit. Like that's what it feels like, and I feel like the players have kind of understood that. Some of them, and I'm not sure all of them, but understand this. But I think most of them kind of get an idea that yes, we're going to say things that might not be positive all the time, but at the end of the day, you know, it's because we want the best for them. We want the best for the team. And never forget, guys, like Jacob said, take advantage of your opportunity, but also don't forget that we love you. So thank you, guys. We'll see each other next week. And hashtag Let's Go Toros. We are Toros and Somos Toros.
Somos Toros.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Ay, caray.
Cesar Cortez logging off.
Ay, güey.
Can you feel it? The fire in your soul, leaving at the chance for love. Can you feel it? Haunting your senses, letting all your feelings go. But I can feel it rushing through my veins.